Hi, my name's Ernie. I love to travel and tell stories, and this is the story about how a 4-hour train ride turned into an 8-hour adventure. So last week I went to New York City on a day trip just to check out a couple of things there and to check out a couple of sites. So originally my train from New York to DC was supposed to leave New York Penn Station at 7:45 p.m. and then get to DC around 11:30. That did not happen. The delays began around 7:15 when I noticed that they didn't start announcing the tracks yet, which is usually the time range which Amtrak does that. Once I noticed that Amtrak wasn't doing that, I knew there were delays at this point. And then you can go see on their time board that the train that I'm on that was supposed to leave at 7:45 started to get delayed. It got delayed to 7:50, 7:55, 8:03, 8:12, and so on and so forth. Around, I would say about 8:25 is when we start seeing the train actually started coming through. Now here's the thing. There was a train earlier that was supposed to get in at 6:45. It didn't get in until about 8 o'clock or so. And that's an important part of the story. So, that 8 o'clock train, that was originally for 6:45, departs at 8 o'clock, and all the passengers are on there. And then it's our train, the one at 7:45, that departs around 8:30 or so. So I board the train, start getting myself settled down. I'll be like, all right, now I'm on the train and we're heading down to DC. Be there in about 4 hours or so. So I get back around 12:30 a.m., which is not a problem for me because I did drive into DC, so I don't have that problem there as opposed to others that either took the metro or they had to rely on Uber to get back to where they are. So we're going down. We're having a pretty smooth ride going down, and they're trying to make up as much time as they can. Now, what originally happened is that there was a train that broke down in Connecticut, I think, somewhere in Connecticut, very close by to New York City, which actually caused delays for these two trains right here. So they had to wait for that. They had to take that off the track, and then those two can finally go through. That caused that delay there, getting into New York City. All right, so we're pumping along, we're going through, and I would say around 11 o'clock, we started to slow down. And it's like, okay, why are we slowing down? The conductor comes on and tells us that there has been a train that has broken down, and we have to wait for them to clear the track before we can actually go in. This is about maybe, I would say, a half hour away from Baltimore, so we were making pretty good time. I'd say we waited for about a half hour to 45 minutes for that. But then when we got to another stop. But after that stop, we ended up staying there for about another 20 minutes. And we found out that actually that 6:45 train that was delayed earlier broke down right before it could go into Baltimore. So now we're picking up those passengers and putting them on our train to bring them down the rest of the way to DC, because we're all heading to the same place anyway. So that took about another... They had to get all the passengers off of that, then get all the passengers on our train. And that whole process took about maybe an hour and a half. And it was such a long process. Like, Amtrak did the best that they could do with it. I'm not blaming them whatsoever, but it was a long process. And it was like, we were all pretty tired at that point. They did give us a goodie bag and a drink as well. So at least we're not like starving, or we're not hungry or thirsty or anything like that. So we go grab that. We got the passengers on board, and then we make our way towards DC about an hour and a half later, and that brings us to 2 o'clock, about 2:20, 2:30 in the morning. So thankfully now I finally get to go into my car, and I finally get to drive home after this long day in New York City. It was fun, but it was just a long day. So I put in my GPS. All right, go home. Takes me this one route. Takes me along this 2-lane highway that goes like right along the river. So it's 3 a.m. riding along, and then come to a stop. Turns out there was a really big accident that happened there. Really bad, really big. Like, they had to bring in the ambulance and the police cars and fire trucks. They had to close down both sides of the highway. They had to sand down because it was on a bridge. It was a really major accident, and I'm not sure how everybody felt, but I'm hoping that everybody in the accident is doing okay. We were there for about an hour, so it was a very long day as is. And then finally, there were no accidents. There was nothing else that was going on. I was able to have a smooth ride going home. And I finally got home at 4:21 in the morning after after leaving my house around, I would say 6:30 in the morning, the previous one. So yeah, it was a long, hectic day, and hence why I put out that story earlier about it. But yeah, it was a pretty fun adventure. It wasn't too bad. Like, I get to experience something that I haven't really experienced before, but it was a long day, I will say that. And travel stories like this happen all the time to people. This is the first time I'm really going through something like this, so it happens. And it's basically just, you just can't control everything. Control what you can. I can't be mad at it. Yeah, I wanted to go home, but I wasn't cranky about it. I was like, alright, we'll just see what happens. So, but anyways, if you wanted to hear more stories like this, make sure you hit that follow button. Thank you for listening. And hopefully, I'm Ernie. I love to travel and tell stories, and I hope you're here for the next one. I guess that's my tagline now. Alright, we'll see.